Welcome back to CGN. It's Bobby G. I'm here and joined today by Farah O'Keefe, who is currently ranked number world in the world amateur golf ranking number 7. Farah, it's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to do this.
Oh, great. Well, we appreciate it, and we really enjoy working with your team. So, obviously, as I showed you earlier, we're big UT fans, and we've done a number of events with the team, and we were honored that you were able to squeeze us in. I know you said you're suffering from a little bit of jet lag. Can you explain to us where you were and what you were playing in, and why you're still kind of catching up to speed a little bit?
Yeah, so I got home Sunday night after 10 days in Singapore. I was there representing the United States for the World Amateur Team Championships. They have this week is actually the men's, so they go back to back weeks where the first week is the women's championship and then the second week is the men's championship. So it's a 13-hour time difference from Austin, Texas, so I'm pretty tired. Uh, I've been home for probably 36 hours, and I'm still getting acclimated a little bit. I'm pretty tired, because I guess it's 1 o'clock or it's yeah, it's 11 o'clock at night over there right now. It's noon here, so,
Well
uh,
well,
pretty
hopefully
pretty crazy.
hopefully we won't go too long and you can get back to bed soon. So you're originally from Texas. Can
Yes.
you just start out a little bit telling us about, when you took up golf and kind of what you did and how you got interested in it and then the part B of that question is what made you think that, you can go on and play at a very, very high level, obviously, which you're at right now.
Well, I grew up in Austin, and my dad introduced me to the game when I was really young. I think I was like 2 years old the first time that he let me hit a golf ball. I'd been in a stroller on the back of the driving range for, since I was born, since I was an infant. And then when I was 2 years old, he cut down a club and let me hit a ball at Grey Rock, which was Circle C back in the day. Um, and that's just kind of how I got into it. And I started playing tournaments when I was like, regularly, not until I was about 10 or 11, played in my first event when I was 6 and kind of, I got the bug, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna play other sports." I played basketball all the way through middle school, and then in high school, it's kinda when I settled on trying to play golf and going to the next level. But I think that the thing that for me, it showed me that I had promise, um, first of all, I had my dad in my corner, and he was always telling me of all of the things that I was, slated to accomplish and all this kind of stuff. He had big dreams and big hopes for me, and I think having somebody like that, who I would both physically come home to and have him sitting there talking to me about, um, you know, big dreams and all of that kind of stuff. That was one thing that got me motivated to go play. But then I think I had the opportunity to play in an LPGA tour event when I was 16 and I made the cut, and my dad was on the bag, and, the whole week we just sat there and we kinda talked about how it was an opportunity for me to kinda show the world what I got, because I didn't play a lot of very big events. I was kind of, I flew under the radar is what a lot of people say, um, and so to go make a cut in a professional event like that, not just any professional event, but an LPGA event, was huge, and for me, that kind of solidified that, "Oh, like, I've got the game. My game can travel. I'm not just playing against, other 16-year-olds, I can go play against professionals um, and not just compete, but beat professionals," and so that, for me, was kind of the first promising moment that I was capable, and then from that point on, I played really competitively on my high school team. We won a state championship. I won an individual state championship. I won a couple of other big events in the state of Texas, and then I went on to qualify for the US Girls and the USAM and all that kind of stuff, and I actually qualified for 2023 US Open at Pebble Beach before I even teed it up as a Longhorn, so, um, and I did not make the cut there. That was a very hard week, but all of those experiences together kind of have fueled me to continue down this path of pursuing golf at a high level, and I'm also a perfectionist, and so when I decide that I wanna play, a sport or if I got super into art at one point. I was in orchestra in high school and I when I get involved in something like that, I put 110% in, and I don't like coming up short, so golf for me is something that I love to do. It's, it's sure it's my job and it's my career, but it's also my biggest hobby, and so, to be able to love what I do, it's always the saying, like, you're never gonna work a day in your life if you love what you do, so I feel like I have never worked a day in my life on the golf course. I'm always just out there having fun and working to get as good as I possibly can, because of the perfectionist within me.
That's great answer. Wow. Great message to a lot of our young viewers. So appreciate that insight. So you mentioned your father, Michael. I think we would be remiss if we didn't also mention your mother, Marlene. So I'll let you do a shout out to her right now. And if you really feel generous, you can do a shout out to your brother, Elias.
Yes. They're my biggest supporters, when I come home from events, actually, like, last or Sunday night, we all went out to Rudy's to get some barbecue, and they surprised me with a little banner and all this kinda stuff, so they're that's my home crowd, they're my biggest supporters, and I know that they're always gonna be proud of me no matter what happens, whether I win or I finish, dead last, they're always gonna be proud of me for trying and for giving it my best. But my mom, I give a lot of credit to my dad throughout my golf career because he was the person that got me into golf and pushed me, and he was there coaching me for the longest time, but really my mom has been such a huge piece of where I am today. She is a teacher, and so she understands kind of mental aspects of learning and growth, and I think having those conversations with her when I was younger was really beneficial, because I was able to learn more about how I was gonna be able to learn in the next steps and not just, "Oh, I got good, and now I need to force a square peg into a round hole," if you will. It's kind of more, "Okay, how do I adapt and get better, as I go?" And so she's been a huge piece of that. We've come up with systems together, we brainstorm a lot. She's always thinking and, to but I also have to acknowledge that she was an athlete herself. She was a state champion at taekwondo when she was in high school,
Wow.
so yeah, she's a beast. She's not just mom, she can sneak up on you, but, and then my brother, I actually get a lot of my motivation from my brother, because he's so good at what he does too. He's one of those guys that's just good at everything, he can if he wanted to go be a mechanic right now, he could go be a mechanic, or if he wanted to go pursue engineering, he could do that right now. If he wanna go play football at the next level, he's on track to do that. So, we're competitive with each other and we're when he was giving me crap when we went to Rudy's, he was like, "Oh man, like, I'm getting one of those state championship rings, like, you're lame, you're just like a world champion," whatever. So he kind of brings me back to earth, a little bit. He loves to be my biggest fan, and I love to be his biggest fan, so I'm gonna watch his game on Friday,
Oh,
actually,
great.
at
Where,
6.
where,
So
where does he go?
Anderson High School in Northwest Hills,
Okay.
yeah. Their
All
team
right.
is really good. They're 4-0, so keep an eye out
Wow.
for the
All right.
yeah.
Great plug there. So, you mentioned the trip to Singapore where you helped the USA win the World Amateur Team Championship. So, congrats on that. You
Thank you.
also, 2025 Arnold Palmer Cup team, runner up at the RNA Women's Amateur in Scotland, co-medalist honors at the Women's Western, um, the Annika Award preseason medalist. It goes on and on and on. And you're just on such a roll right now. But let's just go back to your sophomore year at Texas, where it looked like you really started really getting to the next level, and you guys you played great. Your stroke average over 37 rounds was just over 71, which is amazing, and you had six top five finishes in half the tournaments you played. What was going on your sophomore year? What was, like, clicking, and what was the team like, and how did you have so much success your sophomore year?
I think that my sophomore year, is very different to my freshman year, completely different coaching staff. We played a completely different schedule, in the fall than what we did my freshman year, and so, um, I think I learned a lot from my first go round with the team, um, especially the spring semester. Nobody really talks about how grueling the spring semester is. You're fitting 9 tournaments into 4 months, and so, You're basically never in class, you're always on the move, there's always something to do, it's just, it's go, go, go. So, I think my freshman year, I kind of finished at nationals not how I would have hoped, um, and so I learned a lot from that, and I was able to take away some positives and continue to keep a growth mindset, moving into my sophomore year. But I think the summer that I played prior to my sophomore year, I played a USAM and I finished in round of 16, and so there were a lot of things that I felt like, "Oh, I could have done a lot better." I won the Western and, like, I had some positives, but at the same time, I also felt like I came up short in a lot of areas. I got kicked out in the first round at the British, like, it was just one of those summers where it was, I had one really good tournament and the rest of them were kinda, eh. And so going into my sophomore year, I was really motivated to kind of, keep my foot on their throat and pedal the metal and all that kind of stuff, metal the pedal and all that kind of stuff, and just keep chucking along no matter how I finished. And so I had a really, really strong fall. I posted a couple of really low rounds and a lot of top fives, and so um, for me, that was like, okay, we're off. The first semester was always getting off to the right start, so I felt like I got off to a good start. And then in spring, I was able to capitalize on a couple of really good tournaments, and I came really close to winning a couple. I finished second at SECs and in regionals, back-to-back weeks. That was a little bit, it was fun, but it was also frustrating to lose by, however many shots it was, like 2 shots over a span of 2 weeks. Um, and so that was frustrating, but I just I started working with Mark Brooks a little bit, and we just kept talking about staying in my bubble, which is being the only source of judgment that I can accept is from myself. And so when I hear other people telling me, "Oh, you have to do this, this, and this," it's more of like, "Okay, let me process that. Is that something that I would tell myself? Is that something that my mom would tell me or my dad would tell me?" My select group of people. And so, because I was struggling at the beginning of the spring with, feeling like I had to change stuff to get better instead of continuing to work hard on what already works. And so, I worked with Mark a little bit of establishing, okay, let's just go play. Let's not change anything. Let's not really work on anything in big leaps and bounds. Let's just go play and work on getting better at what already works. And so I took that mindset into ANWA in April, and I played really well at ANWA. Had one kind of blip of a round, but the other 2 rounds in the tournament were fantastic. And I think that was really a momentum shifter. I felt like I was prior to ANWA, I was kinda going down a bad path, and I was able to kind of recognize that before anything bad happened and flip my mindset, and then my momentum started going back towards the correct way, and I finished top 10. I had 2 second place finishes. It was just something that it felt good to have done it the right way and not have tried to take a shortcut or something like that.
It's
So
amazing.
that was the biggest takeaway from my sophomore year,
It's
and then I took it into the summer and I played, the US Open and, um, runner-up at the British and medalist at the Western, so I just continued to kind of keep working on what already works, and it feels good.
It's working. So,
Yeah.
obviously, I was gonna say your golf IQ and your emotional intelligence is just off the charts, and so, what a great message for the younger, viewers that are tuning in to hear about your success. I really appreciate you sharing that insight. Um, Along those lines, obviously, I love the analysis of, control what's in your bubble. How do you, if you don't mind sharing, how do you, in the rare occurrence where you get a bad break or, bounces the wrong way or whatever. How do you put that in the rearview mirror and move on to the next shot, within your bubble and within what you can control?
That's a great question. I'm somebody who gets pretty hot-headed sometimes, so I know I don't seem like it right now, but if something doesn't go my way, I can get pretty mad.
Did you get that from your mom or your dad?
Probably my dad, definitely not my mom. She's way too calm. Um, and me and my brother share that in common. We get kind of, we get upset, but it's not like a oh my gosh, let me go curl up in a ball and cry. It's like I'm gonna get motivated to go do better next time, but I'm gonna be really upset right now. And so I've had to learn over the years to kind of rein that in. Um, and so I'm trying to think of an example of a bad break. I had some rough breaks this summer, but one of the things that really bothers me is when I play with people who are intentionally slow.
Mm,
And so, like, when you're playing match play, for example, and you get stuck with somebody who's kind of slow playing you, it can get in your head a little bit because you know that they're doing it on purpose to try to mess with you. Um, but I worked on, Mark and I really worked on like being more concerned about what I'm doing than what the other person is doing, especially in match play. Because I can talk about the bubble, like, I can only control what I can control, right? I can't really control what the other person is gonna do. But there were times where I was being, slow played, and it's like and it's to a certain degree, if you play slow enough in match play, you're liable to concede the hole. If you take just an absolutely absurd amount of time, like, if your group is already behind, then rules officials can start to penalize and all that kinda stuff, just like in stroke play. And so there were a couple times over the summer where I was like felt like I was being slow played, and I was like, "Hey," like, I told the rules officials, like, "Hey, can you just watch the clock a little bit? We're falling behind. You already gave us a warning. You know, when are we gonna get some penalties thrown out here?" Um, and looking back at it, like, I probably just shouldn't have even talked to the rules official. I probably just have kept playing my game. But when that does happen, you deal with it. Yes, that's the problem. You deal with it and then you move on. And you just have to say, okay, there's nothing I can do now. Like, I've done everything I can. I just have to, they'll hit a little white ball. That's all I can do. So,
right.
but I keep telling myself all the time, like, it's just me and the ball. That's to at the end of the day, that's the game. It's just you and the ball. And the amount of people that are watching or the person that you're playing doesn't really matter. It's just you and the ball on the golf course. So that's kind of how I've been able to bring myself back to myself instead of having my attention be everywhere else. That's like my quick little 2 cents.
Good. Well, thank you. That's great. Really appreciate that input. So, this next question is hard for me to ask because you're so darn good. So I should almost skip it, but I am curious, so it's going to get the best of me. Is there anything that you're working on right now in your game that needs a little extra TLC, or are you just kind of keeping all cylinders firing, doing the same thing?
A little bit of both. I feel like a lot of what I do is just maintenance. Like hitting golf balls, like my swing. I always have the same like 3 feels going. And right now I started to get a little bit too compact, and so I feel like I'm taking a wider takeaway, and that basically fixes all my problems. Gets my hands out of it. So that's kind of the first thing that I do in terms of maintenance is just make sure my swing, the feels are correct. The feels are real and they're not just
Mhm.
imaginary. But
What are the other? Sorry, excuse me. What are the other two feels besides that?
um, just feeling like my chest is tall through the impact. I have a tendency of like dipping down a lot and trying to like go after the ball. So I feel like instead of lunging at the ball, I feel like I'm turning more. So I've worked on kind of squeezing my core in the middle, so that way I'm turning and not just like throwing myself at the golf ball. And the other one is just having, my feet love to move. I'm like Scotty. My feet love to move, and so I have to make sure sometimes that my feet aren't moving too much. Because then that's when the lunge comes in and then the hands come in. It's just like, okay, I have to make sure that my feet are actually on the ground to impact. So that's kind of my 3 things is, like nice wide takeaway, stand tall, and then don't jump at it.
Wow,
That's kind of the things.
those are great.
Um,
And what I love about your description of them is that you describe them as feels. They're not like
mm,
thoughts where you're like overthinking. They're just feels, which I really love that explanation on those. I really appreciate that.
of course, Mark and I have worked on that. We talked about his favorite thing is feel to reel, so he'll put me on TrackMan whenever we're working together. And if like we were working one time on trying to hit a fade because I draw the ball, and so I want to be able to work the ball both ways. So he put me on TrackMan, and we had this feel of like through impact. I felt like I was trying to cut a tree that's behind me. That way, I swing to the left and actually get the ball to start to the left and then move back to the right. And so that was the feel, but sometimes I would do the feel and then the numbers are not accurate, right? Like, so I'm feeling like I'm swinging left, but I'm actually swinging straight. So that's we have to make sure that the numbers add up to the feel so that the feel is real and it's not just, and I know that that feel actually works in competition and it's not just something that results in a completely different shot.
So, if you don't mind, letting us a little bit inside your bubble, and telling us, what are you currently playing with? What's in your bag?
My clubs?
Yes.
I'm mostly Titleist. I have T200 irons. I have the whatever the newest Vokey wedges are. I think that's the SM10. And then I have, TSR 5 wood or 7 wood, 3 wood. And then I have a Ping G440 Max, I don't know, whatever the biggest head is of the old one. It's like the most forgiving driver that I could find. So that's my driver. And then I have a prototype Scotty Cameron in the bag for my putter, and that's my baby. So I got that at the Palmer Cup this summer, because my I had one of those old red spider putters and it broke, like the insert, started to kind of like warp, and so it at the US Open, and so I was having a lot of difficulty with my putter. So the next week I'm at the Palmer Cup, Titleist was there. I was like, "You guys need to help me out. Like I'm with you guys. I need some help here." And they pulled out this putter and I just started kind of messing around with it, going through my routine and it worked on everything. And so now it's my baby.
Great.
But yeah.
I guess, bad news and good news out of the same round, same
Yeah,
term.
exactly.
That's awesome. So, a little bit more of a fun question. Do you have a favorite karaoke song that you would like to publicly announce for the first time,
Oh my gosh, karaoke song?
or a walk-off song that you
I don't even know, like,
played?
I listen to so many different genres of music, but I guess a walk-off song would probably I like, um what am I thinking? Again by Fetty Wap, that one's pretty good. That's I recently just put that on an Instagram post, and that was really good, but I do like some Morgan Wallen, so A Little Rain, that's a really good song, I've been pumping that lately when I
Okay,
drive, so
okay, good.
I'd probably go with that, A Little Rain by Morgan Wallen.
Awesome. We got that in there. We'll see how that shakes out on our poll. So, last question is, if you could, describe for us kind of what your personal objectives are for, the rest of this year, personally and for the team. Love to hear your take on that.
I think for me personally, I'm just gonna try to keep doing what I'm doing. Of course, I have big goals of chasing scoring records or being the player of the year or whatever. But I think, I've really worked on the last few tournaments I've played of getting off to a little bit of a stronger start. I noticed that last year I would finish within 4 or 5 shots or whatever it was, and the first round was what would put me back. So I think I'm just trying to get off to a better start and keep that momentum through 3 rounds, because a lot of the tournaments we play are 3 rounds. So um, that's my goal is just to keep my kind of intensity and my momentum moving in the right direction through from hole 1 to hole 54. So that's kind of my goal, run through the tape, as they say. And then I think as a team, we've come a really long way. We were my freshman year, we were at our postseason team were all underclassmen. And so we had you wanna talk about experience and, authentic experiences and big events, we didn't have a lot of that. We had only had 2 people on our lineup playing a national championship before. So now that, we're all kind of older, we're all upperclassmen, I think it's gonna be a completely different postseason. I think we're all gonna draw on our experiences from, my freshman year when we didn't even make match play at the national championship to last year where we made it, but we lost to Oregon in a playoff. And so I think that this year, we just have a lot more tournament experience under our belt, and that is gonna take us a really long way, and I think that we just as a team, we just have to trust that, and we have to trust each other, 'cause it's easy to to go play your best golf and then, think that maybe your teammates don't have anything there to back you up, but at the end of the day, every single player on our team, we've got 8 girls, and every single player on that team could easily go win a golf tournament or easily post 5, 6 under par, and so that having that trust in each other, is something that a lot of other teams probably won't have this year, and I think that that's gonna be our biggest asset moving forward.
That's great. Well, we at CGN are rooting for you and the
Thank you.
team, and it was so much fun getting to know you. And if your father ever is feeling under the weather and can't be on your bag, I'm a short distance away. I'd love to help you out and have fun with you. And I promise I will keep up with you.
Sounds good. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for having.
Yeah, thanks for taking out the time and joining us today. And we look forward to another great few tournaments in the fall here, and then we'll be rooting for you in the spring. And hope you guys make it all the way.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.